Mr. Cruz. We'll begin with the left side, please. Center. Could you look at the center, please? And right. One more time, and we'll have a Photoshop together. Okay. Would you please look at the left side, please? Together. Lastly, center one more time, and white hands. Thank you very much. Thank you. 고맙습니다. 네, 2016년 컴퓨터 유일한 액션 재밌죠? 네, 감독님 반갑습니다. 자리에 앉아주시고요. 계속해서 여러분 사랑하시는 배우 톰 크루즈 배우입니다. 박수 부탁드립니다. 네, 반갑습니다. 두 분 자리에 앉으시죠. 기자 간담회를 바로 시작을 하도록 하겠습니다. 네, 저희 기자 간담회 중에는 아시겠지만 플래시는 반드시 꺼주시기를 제가 기자님들께 다시 한번 부탁을 드리도록 두 분의 인사 말씀을 한 말씀씩 들어봤으면 좋겠습니다. 두 분 중에 궁금하신 게 많으실 것 같아서 바로 마이크를 제가 넘기도록 하겠습니다. 중앙으로 가도록 하겠습니다.
네, 안녕하세요. JTBC 천지연입니다. 네, 톰 크루즈 씨께 질문을 드리겠는데요. 제 미처 캐릭과 닮은 부분이 있다면 소개 부탁드리겠습니다.
Stunts, but he has trouble with earplugs.
우리 톰 배우님께서 스턴트는 혼자 하시는데 이어폰은 좀 문제가 있을까 하고 말씀하시는데요. 여러분들 플래시를 좀 꺼주실 걸 제가 다시 부탁을 드릴게요. 지금 고장이 난 것 같다고 하는데요. 저희 톰 크루즈 배우님의 인이어 한 번만 확인해 주시기 바랍니다. 아유, 저희가 죄송합니다. 네, sorry. Yes, sorry for that. 자, 그럼 다시.
Yes. It's a pleasure for me and a treat. I've very much liked Korean film and Korean directors for a long time. I haven't had the privilege of exploring the country, but it's just a thrill to be here.
고맙습니다. 이번에는 우리 톰 아저씨로 유명한 톰 크루즈 배우님.
Yes. First of all, I want to thank you all for being here today. It's such a privilege for me to be here and to see you all, and so thank you very much. I had a really warm welcome at the airport this morning, and it was wonderful to see all those people, and I just also want to just give them a shout out and thank them very much for being there. It was such a warm welcome and seeing their beautiful smiles after a very long journey. So thank you. I'm very honored to be here.
정말 반갑습니다. 두 분 함께 할 수 있어서 영광입니다.
Not a lot. I obviously travel in better fashion than he does. I love this character. He's like a Ronin, honestly, a modern day Ronin, someone who's very intelligent, very skilled, but he's someone who really, he lives by his own wits, and he goes from town to town. He's a classic character. I love playing him. I love the books. They're very suspenseful and interesting. I think that it has some interesting reflections of American culture, and it's just a lot of fun to play.
그리고 아시겠지만 뭐 제 미쳐시는 톰 크루즈.
Yeah, I've wanted to work with Ed since we did Last Samurai, and it just never happened. So we've talked about things, throughout the years. And when he said, I said, "Look, would you ever be interested in directing Jack Reacher?" And I just think he's a brilliant filmmaker. I think the range of films that he has, his movies are always textual and emotional. They always have very interesting characters, and the stories I get deeply involved in. And he's also I just think he's a wonderful director. I love it how he directs me also. I mean, he's directed such brilliant movies. You look at Glory. I remember the first film that I saw you do, which was About Last Night, but, you know, Blood Diamond, you know, there's just one movie, Legends of the Fall. I can just go on and on, but, you know, the work that this man has done.
엔주익 감독님, 네.
Did you have a question for me, or is it the same question about working with him? Well, the reason that I did it is that when we had a first experience, it was so gratifying. It wasn't just the result, but the process was so much fun and so exciting. And I also feel that when you get to know an actor, you get to know them very well, but what you discover is there are many other parts of them that you haven't yet had a chance to express, and in order to find those places, you need to find another story. And I think in this story, we look for different parts. I think Tom was looking for other parts of himself as an actor to relate to this particular character. And so that was another pleasure.
네, 그렇군요. 알겠습니다.
Well, I've been producing films for many, many years, obviously, the whole Mission Impossible franchise since the 90s. And, you know, we were co-producers on The Last Samurai together. You know, it's just, producing is really, you know, you're there to help, basically. I mean, the same way that, you know, we're making a film, we want the film to be as great as possible, and every aspect of the film to be as great as possible. And so it's just a natural progression sometimes. So I'm here to really service, you know, everyone. I do believe to lead is to serve. So that's what it's like producing. I mean, using all the knowledge that I have in terms of whether it's budgets or stories, and just to be there for every aspect from inception all the way until the film is released. Just do anything and everything I can to help out. And I think the films, I'm very interested in a wide range of movies. I always have been, and I've always challenged myself in different kinds of films, whether it's comedy, drama, action, and different kinds of action. You know, I even had a lot of fun doing a musical, and so that's what I like. I like everyone else. I want a good story. You know, I want to sit down and have a good story. That's what I'm very excited about Jack Reacher. It's just a very involving story.
네, 알겠습니다. 자, 이제 다음 질문 가도록 하겠습니다.
Well, when first we met Kobe, she had a broken leg, and it was obviously something we had to concern ourselves with, but we took her to be tested, and it was very clear that not only could she recover, but she was determined to recover. She had been an athlete in her life before, but she had never done any kind of fighting. When you get to know Kobe, we realize that I think probably there's not much that she can't do, and fighting is only the least of it. But in terms of the specifics, I think what she did is she said to Tom, particularly, and you have to understand that Tom has done this now so many times with actresses in which he has invited them into his process and helped them reach a level that's extraordinary. He did it in Mission Impossible, he did it with Emily Blunt as well, and it's a very rigorous, very disciplined, and very well thought out process of training, of strength training, of choreography, of nutrition, of stamina, and every day they went into what Tom likes to call the pain cave for at least an hour before we would work, and for several hours afterward, to reach this extraordinary level of ability. Because remember, she doesn't only have to do it once, she has to do it again and again and again. And he's in extraordinary shape, and she has to be at the same level as him, because if she isn't, she could get hurt. And it was remarkable.
And Ed wouldn't have gotten the shot, so it's really important, especially, you know, with this kind of film or any film. Just, you know, I never want anyone to get injured, but also we're constantly pushing ourselves. I think you all have seen enough movies and talked to enough actors to know physically what it takes, the demands. It is very demanding. So she was impressive. And you know, the reason I do it is because they get excited about it. They want to do it, and I want to deliver for Ed, the director, you know, his vision and what he wants to create there. It's a lot of fun.
네, 알겠습니다. 코비 스몰더스 씨요. 자, 주익 감독님부터 답변 들어보겠습니다.
Sure. You know, look, we're 10 years older, and so there's 10 years more experience of the movies that we've done since we worked together, and I'd like to think that we bring to this experience all of those things that we have learned and think about movies and want to do. But the truth is, it was really like picking up a conversation that had just been left off the day before. We had established a shorthand and a respect for each other and a willingness to push each other. And I think that is the greatest joy and the greatest challenge of working with him. The only thing I would say that's different is that we're looking for different colors. And when you're looking for a different character, you sometimes talk about that character in a different way. And beyond that, it was just the same kind of joyous and almost a celebration of this opportunity that we get, this privilege to make movies. And there's nobody who loves it more than he does, except maybe me.
It's true. That is true. I enjoy that process, and I look forward to having it again with Ed. And it's, you know, this character, to be able to take him to a different world and then to see this character through Ed's eyes also, it's very informative and helpful. You see different aspects of this character, and it was fun exploring that with him. You know, and it's just, he's got a very unique sense of humor, and having those discussions, I mean, making a film with Ed, it's, you know, a lot of times, you know, we're working together and finding this character together. It's something that is, it's just very exciting. It's a very exciting process, a very creative process. And it's also a process that we work at a very high speed, which is quite interesting, how fast, you know, we're going through and working together. You know, it's hard to say the difference between this one and the other one. There's just very different stories. This one's in New Orleans, the other one was in Pittsburgh. I really like there's something about this character that it's just, it has a level of entertainment it's just very satisfying playing this character. Very satisfying, you know, in the story where, you know, here's the villain, or here's this person. You see how Reacher is pushed, and I don't want to give anything away in the story, but I just think that it's a very satisfying movie for an audience.
네.
Thank you.
두 분의 뭐 영화.
Luckily, there's a Halloween parade, so the Halloween parade was going on, and our crew was shooting pieces of that Halloween parade. It was, you know, have you ever been to New Orleans? Have you ever been to New Orleans?
아직 못 가보신 것 같습니다. 네.
Okay, not yet. Well, it's kind of it's a really very unusual and amazing city, and the people of the city were very helpful in making the film. They were really excited about movies, so they allowed us to film during that parade. And it's just, the parades there are wild. I'm sure you've heard of them. I mean, especially, you know, they love parades in that city. I mean, it is part of the culture of that city. So, you know, it was a lot of fun, very unique.
우리 에드워드 주익 감독님.
Well, I mean, we're working all night long for weeks. So New Orleans has a great history of vampires and of monsters and of great sort of horror tradition. And as we're working all night long in the place where all those stories took place, as the later it would get, the more you'd start to see something that you would ask yourself, is it real or is it something that you've created? Because people are out there all night long, and we were out there all night long. And it got a little bit crazy sometimes, but that only helped.
네, 고맙습니다. 말씀을 듣고 보니까 정말 뉴올리언스 두 분 중에 편하게 답해 주셔도 될 것 같은데요.
Sure. I mean, for me, physically, it was, There were a couple moments. Obviously, one, punching through the glass. That was kind of tricky. I've never done that before, actually, punching through a real glass. There's certain things where, the physical aspects of that cage fight, that was quite intense. There were some moments where, we would do the whole fight in one take from different angles. So those things are always very challenging. Because there is a certain point when you're doing a fight, and particularly this kind of movie where you got to have a little bit of contact. So, I'm someone who I train very hard, and I work with all of the actors and stunt people in the scene, and we train over and over and over again so that we can predict each other's movements. So I'm very careful, I don't want to hurt anyone. But so you want to, that's always very tricky. That cage fight was really tricky.
I know the kind of stunts that Tom has done where he's tied himself to planes and jumped off of buildings. I actually maintain that doing those kind of fights that he's talking about is something that's even harder, because you are indeed putting yourself at risk with every movement. And what would happen, and he's not often the one to say it, but he would get hurt. I remember a very specific moment where you did the jump down and you were hurt. And I went to him and I said, okay, should we stop and we can come back tomorrow? And you said, no, we got this. Because he knew it wasn't right yet, and he was determined to keep doing it until it was right. And it just reminds me of what it's like to work with a world-class athlete who says, no, I may be hurt, but I'm going to play hurt. And the next day, with him and with Kobe, I would see the bruises, but they wouldn't tell me while they were happening.
와, 영화에 대한 열정이 대단하시구나. 네, 굉장히.
It's always challenging doing that kind of work, and I think, as I said, it's timing. Repetition, because I'm doing it over and over and over again, and of course I want it to be perfect. And when you're making a movie, you're also discovering it as you're going along in the movements. And there's certain things that, there's hits you take, and there's times you're just trying to be very careful not to hurt anyone also. So but it's a lot of fun. I have to say, when we're making a movie, I'm always thinking of this moment of when an audience is going to see it. I'm thinking about, this is why I do it. I'm not someone who sits in the trailer. I'm there early every day, and I'm usually one of the last to leave at night. And because it's something that is a passion for me. I am passionate about the films I make, and I do love it. So that kind of commitment, I just expect it of myself. And I invite others to come join me in the process also. And I know working with Ed, he's the same way. Like his energy on the set, he is just non-stop from, early morning till late at night. I mean, you never got tired. Both of us, he trains also. He trains very hard too, because he understands making movies is, it's very physical. And it takes a lot of energy. And if you care the way that we care. So it's a real privilege, as Ed said.
네, 알겠습니다. 고맙습니다.
Sure, I just love movies, and Reacher is very different, obviously, than Mission Impossible. And I have The Mummy that I'm doing also, that I just finished, that's going to come out. And Missions, it's just a very different kind of film to this Jack Reacher, where Jack Reacher, in terms of it just reminds me of, you just have these great stories that we make, you're traveling through America, and it just has different rules and different level of texture things that you can do in this kind of movie that we wouldn't put into a Mission Impossible. To have the kind of car chases that we have, the kind of fight scenes that we have, the kind of character scenes that we have, and the relationships is very. Jack Reacher allows this to happen, and it's different kind of suspense. In the same way that The Mummy that'll be coming out, next summer is just very, very different. And it's really fun working on these from Mission to Jack Reacher. Jack Reacher, which is just, you know, he's a character who he's kind of an anti-hero, really. You know, he's someone who does the right thing, but lives very much by his own moral code, and he is quite extreme. And that's what's fun about it for an audience, I think. You know, that is extreme, don't you think? I mean, that's something where you can have scenes where, in the bathroom, do you know what I mean? Where he opens the bathroom door and just punches a guy in the back of the head. It's just like, whoa. You know, the character does things that are sometimes a little bit shocking, that audiences, it's a wish fulfillment in a different way than Mission Impossible is. And it's just something that it's just a lot of fun to work on. And yeah, in the relationships, like you can have that kind of father-daughter, mother-father, this kind of very strange or unique relationship that we can have in this kind of movie. That was a lot of fun to play. It was really enjoyable.
자, 여기서 감독님께 제가 하나 여쭤.
Well, I had never worked in this genre before. I'd always loved crime thrillers as a kid, and I'd loved them as an audience member. But I obviously had always prized originality in the movies that I'd made, and it just gave me a moment's pause to think that I would try to do something that someone had already done. But the truth is that Chris McQuarrie is a very unique artist and a very generous man, and from the very beginning, he and Tom said to me, "No, we want to know, you know, how you think of this movie and how you think of this character. We want you to make a movie that lives or dies on its own terms." And that gave me a freedom. It also gave Marshall Herskovitz and I a freedom as writers to say, all right, what would happen if we take this man and put him in a different kind of circumstance and end up making a different kind of movie? And that, once I realized that there was that possibility, and once Tom and I sat down and talked about that, it was no different than making any other movie, really, because it was as if this man, this character, was meeting these people for the first time, dealing with a different set of circumstances in a different place, the kind of a strange family that is created by these people, made it very much itself. And so the minute I realized that could happen, I never looked back.
네, 그러셨군요. 알겠습니다.
Well, I mean, the fact that he's a great actor is well known. But I actually think that the reason that he's loved as he is because the audience has been made a promise by him that he's never broken. There are too many actors, I think, who end up just taking a job and they don't really care about the success or failure of the movie. And I think going to a movie that Tom is in, an audience has a belief that it's going to be worth it, that the movie is going to succeed on its own terms. And I think that goes far beyond an actor's ability. It goes to a certain innate understanding that Tom has of what makes a good movie and what he might be great in, and to commit himself fully to that. And I think the kind of commitment that I'm describing is, it's unique. And I think there has to be a reason why he's been able to do this for as long as he had, in addition to the fact that he commits himself to a certain level of training and a certain level of taking care of his instrument, so as to be able to do these things that he does.
네, 알겠습니다. 자,
When I arrive, do I wear a leather jacket every time? I didn't know that. I wasn't sure. Sometimes I wear leather jackets. A lot of times I wear them when I'm riding motorcycles. In America, I'm usually riding a motorcycle. I usually have my leather jacket with my helmet and my motorcycle, because I'm just racing to meetings or going around on my motorcycle. That's kind of my favorite thing to do. One of my favorite things. I like flying airplanes, helicopters.
두 분께는 그냥 단순한 마지막 인사 말씀보다 제가 이 질문.
Well, my first visit has been so brief. I think what I would really love is to try to work with the film community here, because I've seen such great work, come out of it, and I would love to find a film that would be appropriate to be made here, frankly.
꼭 이루어지길 바랍니다. 저희도.
Yeah, it's beautiful for me to be here. I love it. As I said, the warm welcome that I received so early in the morning, and I know that people drove out to the airport, that you were taking this time out of your day to be here with us. I don't take that for granted, and it means a great deal to me. This is an amazing country, and I really love the people here, and I'm very happy to be here, and I just truly appreciate it. Thank you.
네, 저희 기자님들께
I hope that this country enjoys the movie as we've seen it enjoy a few others now as we make this tour.
Yeah, I hope you all enjoy it. And again, it's just such a privilege to be here. And again, thank you all for being here. And we're going to have the day here, and then, I look forward to this evening at the premiere.
네, 맞습니다. 자,
Thank you.
그럼
Thank you so
이것으로
much.
기자 간담회를 마치고 공식 포토타임을 진행하도록 하겠습니다. 두 분 잠시 아래로 내려가셔서 포토타임을 위해서 준비하시는 동안에 저희가 무대에 정리하도록 하겠습니다. 잠시 후에 뵙도록 하겠습니다. 네. 무대 아래에서 잠시만 기다려 주시기 바랍니다.